Donald Trump, shit in your mouth. Donald Trump, shit in your mouth.
Since then, President Trump,
I know you mad today, boy. I don't blame you. I'd be mad too.
his wife, with both of them flown out of the country, and the Trump administration officials saying they will face criminal charges here in the U.S. It comes after months of
I'd be mad too, boy.
Huge military presence that's been building in the Caribbean. The interception of 2 Venezuelan oil tankers, you'll remember, and strikes, multiple of them, that killed dozens of people on boats accused of drug running. The president also saying today that in the final days before the strike, Maduro wanted to negotiate, but he, President Trump, was done negotiating. At any moment,
no more negotiating, bitch.
To walk out and to take the
You're done.
And we will carry those remarks live. For now, as we wait, I want to go to our senior national security correspondent, Courtney Huey, to walk us through the attack and the eventual capture of Nicolas Maduro. Courtney, this attack happened under the
fucked with America and found out.
We understand this was supposed to take place a few days beforehand, but because of the weather, they decided to delay it day by day, and then they decided to strike early this morning. Walk our viewers through what happened.
Yeah, but notably, one point on the weather time that I've been struck by is the fact that there was actually a pretty full moon last night, which generally special operators like this don't want. They want as much darkness as possible that does not include a full moon. But you're right. Officials telling us that, in fact, the president actually authorized this action days ago, more than a week ago, and that has now been essentially an hour-by-hour wait to see when the final go-ahead would happen. We now know, as you mentioned, that it started overnight last night, now about 9 hours ago, these first explosions. We don't have a whole lot of detail about exactly what the U.S. military component was here. The president, in first announcing this on Truth Social, called these U.S. strikes, not airstrikes. A couple of the assets that we know the U.S. has in the region include U.S. Navy ships that have the ability to fire Tomahawks or TLAMs. Those are missiles that can fire and strike in a very precise location and give the military standoff capability. Essentially, that means that they can fire them from far enough back that those that are doing the firing, the ship itself, is not necessarily in danger should wherever they're striking.
Donald Trump shitting their mouth.
Counter-strike against them. But the social media videos that we have been seeing do appear to show U.S. military helicopters. It looks like U.S. Chinooks. Those are generally people movers. It wouldn't surprise me, Tom, if we learned that President Maduro and his wife were put on those, or some of the U.S. officials who went in for that ground operation went in on those Chinooks. We also know that the 160th Special Operations Unit, that is of course, you may have heard of them, the Night Stalkers. They were involved in the raid that took out Osama bin Laden in 2011. We know that they have sent additional assets to the region.
Why are you calling me a coward? Who was that? What'd I do?
Those up, they have things called little birds,
what are you mad about?
Small, fast, low-flying attack helicopters.
Did somebody ban you or something and you need to be unbanned? I didn't ban you. I don't even know who the fuck you are.
Also seeing indications that there may have been
Greg.
ospreys up. It wouldn't surprise me again.
Gregory, I don't know who you are.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife out of the country.
I didn't ban you.
Bring U.S. troops in. But one of the biggest questions that we have, we're hoping we get some fidelity from President Trump and others at this news conference in only moments, is exactly
I didn't ban you, Gregory.
Used here. So in other words, who was the lead on this operation? If in fact the justification, the legal justification, was to go in and take out Nicolas Maduro because of the indictment against him for narco trafficking and other alleged offenses, then was the U.S. military used for that? So under what authorities? Again, Tom.
Man, shut up, dumb bitch.
We're really hoping we get some answers.
NBC News a joke.
The U.S. military in this took strikes on a sovereign nation's military. These were Venezuelan military locations that were targeted in some of the video that you see here. What were the authorities
Oh!
took those strikes? Senator Mike Lee,
A sovereign nation!
Rubio explained to him that the justification for that was to protect the U.S. officials who were going in on the ground, to make sure, essentially, like a shaping operation, make sure that they made it as safe as possible for those.
Turn to NBC News right now. Look at this. You gotta see it.
But what was the actual?
You gotta see this shit. I swear to God, I can't even. They showing pictures of Maduro, and it's all like good pictures of him, and she's smiling and shit. People smiling behind him.
Also talk about sort of the intelligence of all of this, right? Because within hours of striking Venezuela,
Trump's a bad guy. Did something illegal. Shut up. Stupid.
USS Iwo Jima, which was there in the waters off of Venezuela. That's incredibly fast.
Look at it.
Sometimes in these situations, these heads of state, they have safe houses that they run to.
Nah, come on back.
Happened very fast.
Yeah, it really opens up the question about how the U.S. had such great intelligence. And I think one of the questions, or
They'll do it
some
again.
questions that will be posed to President Trump this
Look
morning
at
and
him.
to his officials is,
Look at him.
were there conversations that were ongoing with Nicolas Maduro himself? Exactly where he was going to be.
Man, what the fuck?
And what was the
And look at Trump's pic.
intelligence? Was it U.S. military intelligence? Was it a combination? How did this all come together?
Look at this.
All right, Courtney, stand by for us. I do want to go back to Peter Alexander because the big
Oh,
question now-
God.
But the big question right now is who is in charge
These
of
motherfuckers
Venezuela?
are fucked
The
up.
Trump administration has been accusing Venezuela of being
These
a
fucking clowns, bro.
Maduro being a puppet for
I
the
swear to
cartels, essentially
God.
being a meeting point for the cartels to ship out cocaine around the world and to the United States. Right now, it stands to reason to think the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, who has been a student
Shit, I should have made this members only.
Maduro, would be in charge. But, Peter, right now, it's unclear. And the president has come out today saying that he hopes whoever takes over Venezuela, whoever's
Shoulda,
in charge, goes
coulda,
in a different direction than Maduro.
woulda.
Tom, I should tell you, as you're speaking to me, I'm hearing from our colleagues on the ground at Mar-a-Lago that we now have a 2-minute warning, which means we'll hear from the president now in just a matter of moments. So I'll keep this very brief for you, but I would say that is high on the list of questions is after the operation that has proven successful clearly to be able to capture Nicolas Maduro and his wife, what other plans were already in place? Who is governing that country? Is it Maria Corina Machado? She was the former or the longtime opposition leader there. Her name may be familiar because she recently won the Nobel Peace Prize and had a remarkable departure from that country where she accepted the award overseas.
Gregory, I can't help you if you don't tell me who the fuck you are. I can't help you.
What takes place now going forward? What the U.S. has done?
Nothing I can do about it, Gregory.
The situation on the ground there to ensure that there is some form of a peaceful transition. Venezuelans are still waking up to this dramatic news. And then finally, and separate from this, I think there are going to be a lot of broad questions about the TikTok, exactly how all this came to be.
These motherfuckers didn't even have time to talk shit about it. They didn't even have time to come to your Twitter, come to your stream and be like, oh, I thought no new wars. Oh, what is Trump doing? Oh, it's already over.
Somalia, now
It's over.
as well, in addition to the Pacific and the Caribbean.
You didn't even have time to wake up. By the time you woke up, you fell asleep, and it all happened while you was passed out.
You stand by for us as well. I can tell you we are
By the time you woke up, you didn't have, there's nothing to talk shit about. You can't even talk shit. You didn't even have like a couple of hours or like a day or like a week to talk shit. Like with the Iran stuff, you got to talk shit for a little bit. Even though you look dumb in the end. This time, nothing. You didn't get shit. So you got to sit and cry about it being illegal. That's all you got.
Venezuelan flags flying there. There's been an influx of Venezuelan immigrants, some saying up to 700,000 over the last 5 to 10 years.
When Obama bombed the country, didn't give a shit about that.
Because of the lack of human rights in Venezuela, we should remind you that Maduro was accused by the UN of killing up to 5,000 dissidents.
And all those Venezuelans are in the street like cheering and celebrating.
And torturing them.
God, you know they're mad today. Liberals are mad today. Liberals hate this shit.
A very important time. You can see there are tears in people's eyes. They have been
Liberals hate them people celebrating. God, they can't stand them.
Strikes were first announced. We were awoken early this morning, and I have a lot of friends and family.
Venezuelans are about to be hated by liberals.
Just kept bringing people asking questions. What does this mean for
They'll want them deported now.
For the people of Cuba as well. Again, we can't get too ahead of ourselves right now. The president has just said they've taken out Maduro because he was wanted. He was indicted not once, but now twice, from what the Attorney General Pam Bondi has told us, for being an agent of the cartels, for being, in their words, a narco trafficker. He will stand trial in the U.S. and he will get his day in court, and he will have attorneys provided to him if he can't pay for them, and he will have a say in this. But for right now, he is in U.S. custody. It is unclear who is leading Venezuela at this hour. If indeed
Trump.
It is more members of the Maduro regime, if it is the vice president.
Trump's leading the damn country now.
Who has been asking the international community for proof of
Trump decides what happens next.
And his wife are still
Not
alive.
you.
We have
And not the vice president of Venezuela. If the vice president of Venezuela need to get the fuck, I'd be leaving is what I'd be doing.
the actions that have happened.
I'd be trying to get the fuck out.
That they did not agree with.
I'd be calling Trump on the phone saying, how can I help, sir?
This was the
Sir, whatever I can do to help.
in Venezuela, right
I
there
can't
in
wait to help you,
Capitol
sir.
From the moment those missiles launched,
Please,
at
sir.
some point within hours, they had the leader of Venezuela in custody. The president
That's what you need to be doing. And if Trump says you need to just get your shit and get out of there, you need to go home. You get on out. You need to flee the country.
Multiple off-ramps to Maduro. Again, they have been in this region for months now, striking those boats they say are carrying drugs from Venezuela to the United States. The threats have been made. There apparently were negotiations up until last week between the president and Maduro. That, according to President Trump. But at this hour,
he told him to leave, to step down and leave. I'm fucking didn't leave.
Who's joining our
Or it's like, I ain't stepping down.
We do want to remind you,
Trump went in there and took his ass.
President Trump come in. Kristen, this is an interesting time in our
Kidnapped him.
country's history, but it's also an interesting time for the Trump administration. The first administration.
And yes, the king of the world can come kidnap you and take you away. He's the king of the world.
In a country that has been accused of sending drugs by the tons into the United States, but has never attacked our country.
Oh,
And now
oh God.
the leader in that country has been taken out by U.S. forces.
Tom, you're absolutely right. And what is so striking is that we have seen cracks begin to form within the MAGA base as President Trump has escalated his pressure campaign against Nicolas Maduro, against the Venezuelan regime. And now, of course, this reaction just pouring in. It's coming in largely along party lines right now, Tom. We should say that. Democrats highly critical, saying that this is illegal without congressional approval, congressional leaders, Republicans supportive. But look at this from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She, of course, had a very public
What a
word
dumb
with President
bitch.
Trump, in part because of his focus on foreign policy, which she says goes against his America First foreign policy. Here she says,
When your gas prices go down real fucking low, let me know how it doesn't benefit America.
U.S. military action and regime change in Venezuela was really about saving American lives from deadly drugs. Then why hasn't the Trump administration taken action against Mexican cartels? And then listen to this part of her.
I mean, that's coming, bitch. Keep on, keep talking, bitch.
MAGA thought they voted to end. Boy, were we wrong.
I voted
As
to
the baby
destroy
boomers slip
evil
away, those voters
motherfuckers.
in power, the electoral future will be decided for candidates that focus on American economic populism and promising prosperity for Americans only. Really strong words there from Congresswoman Marjorie.
There's another one gone. Bye, guy.
To zoom out a little bit, let's remember what President Trump
Evil communist dorks.
foreign policy was all about. He campaigned.
That's what I voted to handle. Evil communist dorks. And it doesn't matter where those communist dorks may be.
When he said
They may be the president of Venezuela. They may be some lunatic liberal setting a Tesla on fire. It don't matter.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of those with the
Fuck these communist lunatics.
Her constituents care about the economy, issues like healthcare, and that this runs counter to those critical promises that were made. So I think questions moving forward: will Congress be briefed? When will there need to be?
The president of Mexico better do what she's told, or she's next. They'll take her ass out. Get her out of there.
You know, excuse me, Kristen, we're about to go to Keir Simmons, but Kristen, you know, I had an opportunity to speak with Maduro years ago. I interviewed him inside of Venezuela.
He's going to go into Mexico and clear them cartels out too. And what is she going to do about it?
Around President Trump, people at the time like Senator Rubio,
What is she going to do about it?
Who are the ones sort of whispering in President
Bitch,
Trump's
what are
ear,
you going to do?
And now this has become a reality.
What is Mexico going to do about it?
Secretary of State
Nothing.
has been in charge with multiple jobs.
Nobody's going to do nothing.
As well. Talk to me about that relationship and the role that the Secretary of State played in all of this.
Russia and China didn't do a damn thing about it.
Secretary Rubio has long had his sights on Venezuela.
Just put out some gay statement. Russia can't even do nothing. Russia can't even get that fucking goofy motherfucking Lazinski. Russia can't even get him.
They were fierce political rivals back on the campaign trail in 2016. Now, of course, brought into the fold in this second Trump administration has become, quite frankly, Tom, one of his most trusted advisors. When you ask President Trump about the future of MAGA, who should take the baton, he talks about the vice president, but he also talks about Secretary Rubio, and I think it really underscores the strength of that relationship.
What that pizza at?
Okay, Kristen, stand by for us again. We are waiting for President Trump to walk out at any moment at Mar-a-Lago.
Come on, Trump, let's get this over with.
Bring you those comments. What
the?
Explain that.
Yeah, it's hard to find words, isn't it?
Apologize.
It's not surprising because we haven't seen an intervention. A U.S. intervention in Latin America like this.
Curtis, you don't know nothing.
We do know, though,
You angry today, Curtis, huh?
recent history that
You having a rough day, Curtis?
change is unpredictable.
You having a fucking rough day, ain't you, Curtis?
What happens next? That is in question, and members of Maduro's
You woke up angry today,
are
Curtis.
saying that there is stability and that this didn't work.
You woke up kind of hyped up, and then you got real fucking mad, didn't you, Curtis?
And around the world,
You were like, damn it, he got him. What the fuck? You wanted dead soldiers, you wanted destruction, chaos, failure, and the only thing that failed was you, Curtis, and your hateful ways.
I think that's striking in terms of
That was the only thing that failed, Curtis.
international diplomacy that we have seen in 2025. But if leaders around the world, Tom, didn't get the message in 2025, they're getting it now at the beginning of 2026. The Trump administration messaging quite clearly, you must bend to our will. And as you say, questions from many, many countries, not least Russia. President Putin was very close to Maduro. They are allies. What does this mean for Russia? Is this a weakening of Russia? Is this effectively a strike by the Trump administration against Russia as well as against Venezuela, against Russian interests? Certainly, in the U.S. national security strategy at the end of last year, what we were told is that the U.S. believes the Western Hemisphere is its area, that it wants to assert itself, and it certainly is with this strike overnight, and that assertion is directed at Russia. It's also directed at the Iranians who had a close relationship with the Maduro regime, and there are protests in Iran right now. What will the Iranian leadership be thinking?
You got
It's also
Neil,
directed
Curtis.
at China, as Peter Alexander said earlier, we saw Chinese officials with Maduro just in the past few days.
Had the Chinese officials in the country.
Trying to say, this is our friend, don't usurp him. Well, that didn't work.
Keir, I do want to talk to you because you've done a lot of reporting about China's encroachment in this region as well. We can't talk about Venezuela and what's just happened.
China got
We're not
punked
talking about
out.
the oil reserves there. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world. In many ways, feeding the countries that are not friends to the United States. The president has spoken about the oil that was taken, he says, by Venezuela. That was U.S.'s oil from U.S. companies. This is going to complicate matters because it's unclear what happens with the oil production in Venezuela going forward.
Yeah, no question. And
It's ours now.
are playing a role in the Venezuelan.
We're
oil
taking it,
industry
you
as
dumb
well.
fuck.
We should say, Tom, you can't just switch on the taps in Venezuela with that oil industry. It does have massive reserves, but it doesn't. It's not an industry that just can start working immediately. So the implications
Oh,
for
babe,
the oil
can.
markets may be muted, and obviously just a counterpoint to that, this kind of destabilization, if you like, that can have implications in financial markets. We will see on Monday.
Nah, don't worry about that.
But you mentioned China. It's an important point.
Ain't nobody worried about that market. That market will be fine. Yeah, that market's all over the damn place.
With rare earths, rare minerals.
It'll hit a record high next week. We won't even be talking about this no
kind
more.
of commodities which are now so important to the world economy, and I think that the U.S. policy.
We won't even be talking about this next week.
That's a
Ain't that funny?
here too.
We moved on to the next thing.
From the United States in the Western Hemisphere to countries around the world. We don't like you intervening in inverted commas in our region. This is stunning. In some ways, though, it is not surprising, Tom. It does play into U.S. foreign policy in the region over decades and even over centuries. And I think from that history, what we do...
We're taking over the
We
region.
don't know what happens next.
Right.
That's what we have to watch for.
Again, we're waiting the president at any moment. He was supposed to come out at 11 a.m., but again, this is a time when things are very fluid. We were going to bring you his comments as soon as he comes on. Keir, I do want to get back to you. Venezuela now a region in conflict, right? You have a country that has no leader. It's unclear.
Trump's about to declare it the 51st state.
You have an opposition.
They'll piss him off. They're trying to figure out who's going to be the leader and shit. He'll get annoyed and he'll just say, fuck it, we'll take it. And then they'll go,
that was acknowledged by the United States going back 4 years as the true
There'll be a whole
Venezuela.
panic about that for a
And you have
day.
the Venezuelan military, right, who is really holding the cards right now. But besides that, you have what is known as el colectivo, essentially neighborhood gangs that Maduro has armed, so they stay loyal to him. Essentially, in Venezuela,
Yeah, I bet they
there's
are.
no work, there's no money, there's no food. He has given these people food. He has given them weapons. So
I
they
bet
stay
they're gonna be
to
loyal.
him.
He's not even there no more, dummy.
And you have sort of these neighborhood
Loyal to what? He's gone.
That there's been reporting now that they're actually protecting some military installations. To give you an idea of sort of
They gonna fight the United States military without their leader?
It's just not there.
Yeah, I bet.
Neighborhood watchmen, if you will, armed with machine guns, protecting their military sites. But it all speaks to who's going to be in charge and who's going to take over.
Trump.
And it sounds like President Trump, at least from now, is not pushing for a regime change. Even though he's taken out the leader of the country, he's saying whoever comes next, he
That
hopes
dude's
not
dumb.
Maduro, but he's
What are you
assuming
talking
the
about?
vice president is in charge.
Yeah, President Trump, and
That's the dumbest shit I ever heard.
We'll hear it when we hear from President Trump in a moment.
He's not pushing for regime change. He just kidnapped the damn leader.
Who will lead Venezuela? And he said, well, we're going to have to look at that right now. That kind of comment will prompt criticism from some that there needs to be a strategy here rather than simply just the tactic of removing.
Oh, God,
You
like there
have
ain't a
some
fucking
pictures
strategy, you
of
dumb fucking
civilians
retard.
on the streets in Venezuela in support of Maduro. And you're right. If you are Venezuelan sitting at home right now,
Are you stupid, guy?
wondering what happens next, and you are against.
No
the
wonder
regime,
people are stupid. This is
you
shit
are
they
trying
watch.
to calculate
I don't
that
ever watch
if
this
you
shit.
walk out onto the streets,
This is
you
retarded.
become a victim. Will you be
They gotta have a
supported by the
plan
US?
in place. They can't just take him
Will,
out and have a plan.
Maduro built up around
fuck are
him
you
that
talking
so
about?
eloquently described. Will they target you? These kinds of things we know because we've seen this kind of thing before. And you have to be careful with comparisons. But if you take, for example, the US experience in Iraq, where, of course, Saddam Hussein was removed, so that was regime change. What the US then faced was a challenge about who should run the country, how the country should be run, and a civil war. Now, you do have to be careful with these comparisons, completely different part of the world, but the principles
Ain't gonna be no civil war.
are familiar.
It's done.
And the question of whether you can change a country, make it more stable, maybe even make it democratic, with kinetic power that doesn't involve boots on the ground is a looming question here. And of course, the US has tried boots on the ground before, and that in the past, in some parts of the world, hasn't worked.
Keir, stand by for us because we now are seeing these images that are stunning that President Trump has posted on social media. This is the former leader of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro.
Look, they got him.
You can see those blacked out sunglasses over his eyes. He's wearing the earmuffs as well. He looks to be in a tracksuit, likely the same outfit they took him in custody, and we don't know that for sure. But
Motherfucker's
it
laying in a
looks like,
tracksuit.
he's been scuffed up there. You can see his hands there given a bottle of water. This is the first image we've seen of the former leader of Venezuela now in U.S. custody aboard what we believe is the USS Iwo Jima. Again, the president putting out this photo. He will stand trial. It appears in New York. He was indicted in both the Southern District of Florida and in New York for charges.
Trump about to talk so much
drug
shit.
Trafficking, being a narco-terrorist, colluding with the cartels, allowing his country to be a meeting point, to be a shipping point for they said millions of tons. I don't know if that exact figure is correct, of cocaine coming out of Venezuela to the United States and around the world. His wife.
That sounds right to me.
And if you're wondering why his wife was also taken into custody, she has held many roles in Venezuela in the political hierarchy, once as Attorney General, once as the leader of parliament. Some have said she's as popular as her husband, Nicolás Maduro. So both of them have been taken into custody.
Took his wife,
Of course,
too.
Maduro rising to power after Hugo Chavez was dying of cancer. He was in his third term, 2 of his elections deemed completely illegal by the international community. Even his last election, more Venezuelans voting for the opposition party, and yet he stayed in power as a true dictator in Latin America, building ties with places like Cuba, building ties with Russia and Iran and China, maintaining those relationships throughout. And he simply ran out of time in President Trump's side. We will hear from
Every
the
picture they show this
in a matter of
motherfucker, he's
moments.
smiling.
Our chief foreign
These
correspondent
motherfuckers ain't.
reporting from Latin America,
They don't even make
from
it.
Colombia.
They don't even try to hide it.
Started Richard, you've been watching all this.
They make the shit
information.
so
You saw
obvious.
the image just posted of Nicolás Maduro. Not exactly the same story, not exactly the same case, but reminiscent of when they took out Saddam Hussein. A similar image. You know, these images.
Ain't
are very
smiling in
similar to
that one.
President Trump as well. Again, two completely different situations, two different military actions, but the visuals are very similar here.
I think they're very similar. I think it's no surprise. President Trump is a little bit late in coming out to make his remarks. I think it's no accident that that image was released first. This is the image that President Trump wanted to show Venezuelans, wanted to show Americans, wanted to show the world. A dictator who stood up, who refused to accept President Trump's policies, who said no, and who's now in handcuffs with earmuffs on so that you don't know exactly, he won't know what is being said around him, won't know where he is. A man who went from a palace to now.
How about when the next Democrat president pardons a motherfucker?
A very powerful image, an image that will be seen in Venezuela by the people, but also by the leadership. I've been speaking to people today who've been involved in this negotiation process that has been both diplomatic and a negotiation process by force over the last several months to try to get Maduro to leave on his own. And what we've seen and have been talking about all day is this escalation. First, there were the attacks on boats. Then there was this seizures of.
And Russia gets, from what I was reading, Russia gets a lot of oil from Venezuela.
Ultimately,
And we just cut that off. That's over.
To take Nicolas Maduro. You were talking about
If that's true, that's
right
over.
now, there clearly is a power vacuum.
They got a lot of oil too.
Speaking with a senior official,
From what I was watching earlier, they got more oil than Saudi Arabia.
This pressure campaign, who said the most important person in Venezuela right now is the Defense Minister Padrino. And he effectively is managing the country as it goes through this transition. We don't know yet if this was a successful regime change that will lead to a democratic future and a better future that could see the opposition.
You know that Iranian motherfucker's shaking like a leaf today. They can just come in and take you. That's what she don't seem to understand. All that bullshit they do, where they bomb the fuck out of everything and it's a giant clusterfuck, they don't have to do that. They don't have to do that. They can just, I've been telling you for years, they can just go in and take a motherfucker. They have the capability.
A dictatorship built around Maduro, around his cult of.
They don't have to kill all them civilians and do all that bullshit.
The military is much diminished, and that photo is clearly designed to impact.
They may not be able to do that to every leader in the world, but
with your next move, you should make
a lot of these third world dictators, they ain't shit.
Or you could be the next.
And we could send a special forces team in and take them right out.
And Richard, it's fair to say from your reporting.
I mean, we could drone strike them and we wouldn't have to send a person.
Even today, have left allies, have left enemies guessing, even confused. I remember speaking to the Colombian president. He came out on social media and said one thing about President Trump, and then you spoke to a defense minister, and they said something completely
They learn not to fuck with Trump.
This President Trump wants to.
Keir Starmer next.
Afraid of it. And
watch what you say. Keir Starmer, come get your ass.
Talk about President Trump's unpredictability, and that fear is powerful.
Okay, Richard.
Here we go.
Richard, I'm going to interrupt you. President Trump is taking the podium. Let's listen in.
Appreciate you being here. Late last night,
Got everybody out there. Hegseth, Rubio.
at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi,
God, he's going through the hit list.
obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer.
Take somebody else. Fuck it. Go take that motherfucker in Iran. Just do it. End all this. I'm tired of hearing about it. Israel. Just go take him out and be done with. Hell, they protesting. They're rioting in the streets. A perfect time to make the move, I think. Make the move. Cut that motherfucker out. Be done with it.
Women of our military working with U.S. law enforcement successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York.
You're getting tried for all them fentanyl deaths. You're getting put on trial.
Campaign of deadly
Some cold shit.
against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
I told you, we run Venezuela now.
Be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have
Kneel, liberal. I told you, you're kneeling.
period of years.
Trump is going to make you
So
kneel.
we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe,
We own Venezuela now.
and judicious-
We run that. Who's in control of the oil? We are.
Judicious,
Who do you think is?
because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back.
We're rolling tanks through the street. The people are going to be cheering.
We can't take a chance at somebody else.
And liberals will be
takes over
crying.
Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it essentially until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust for a long period of
We're
time.
turning the oil on.
They were pumping almost nothing. By
Just go sit down,
comparison to what
liberal.
They could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They have a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans, hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship they'll be heading to, ultimately, New York. And then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers of people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military and everybody in our national
Not so
Guard,
brutal now.
because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe
Settle down.
city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly. And now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat. But we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have two, on average, 2 a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They go in, they walk in their daughters, they walk in their children, their wives, they walk to Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard, I want to thank our military, and I want to thank law enforcement. Been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. It was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing. And we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago. Then crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us to call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Trinidad, Aragua, and they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston, beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Trinidad, Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions, they sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers, they were drug kingpins, they sent everybody bad into the United States. But no longer, and we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, so we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries, and not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines, and the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot. By a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders, we will stop the terrorists, we will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until the United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects. and the American people deserve. And as the president said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men, and I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raising Cane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve. The most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our Chairman Raising Cane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States, and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd, and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that frankly only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise It involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise, and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel, so as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings, but when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
should make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
Don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, get there, we're going to do this, we're going to take... This is a president of action. I don't understand how they haven't settled. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out, and I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have. So now, you know, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think that the big fights where he's not. Generally wants to get along with everybody. But don't games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that, you know, the lesson was last night. I hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Mr. President.
You said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela, so who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but it's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr. President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. And it's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it.
Exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S.
We're talking to various people, and we'll let you know who those people are. Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time. The people that are standing, we're going to be running it, we'll be bringing it back. It's a dead, you're not talking about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere, a country doing better than any country in the world. And it required leadership. It has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that should be leading. We're not going to take a chance one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
Well, I
going?
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He's just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary.
Told
to
you.
Make Venezuela great again.
Some woman. Look at that.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch that. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what are your messages?
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I dyslexic by my first statement. He's making cocaine and they're sending it into the United States, so he does have to watch his hands.
Did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that because you were involved?
Sure. We call members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice. And the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. There are broader policy missions here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Congress has a tendency to leak. This would, if they, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point. You know, they sort of knew we were coming. We'll leak, and we don't want leakers.
You were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is? Well, the men, because our guys were so fast, they went through the opposition so fast, and there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? So surprised, but they were waiting for something. There was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. He was trying to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it.
So where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact
Well, eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards. Did that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
Mr. President, can you? How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it, and we're going to take a lot of money out so they can do that.
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect relationships with them?
China and Russia, when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce much as their infrastructure. We're selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Mr. President, are you saying that? Oh.
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
You're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety, you're going to have justice, you're going to have a country, you're going to have a real country, you're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country and they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we wouldn't have. We would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms of, I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military troops to provide?
That's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro. And right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice.
I'll do whatever you
We're gonna
need,
have
sir.
this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, you know, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world going and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay, and some probably will go back, yeah.
So what's being done to protect Americans in the country and for any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now, they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people, and we let them know that.
And are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them. And they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, right behind us.
Why is it a country that's first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround it with good neighbors. We want to start with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba's an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, the whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba. They tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Putting up oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's an increase.
We've just been listening to President Trump's news conference at Mar-a-Lago. That's going to conclude this portion of NBC News' special report. You can continue to watch our special coverage of the U.S. attack on Venezuela on our streaming network, NBC News, online at NBCnews.